Hello everyone. So it's my turn to talk about this topic. It's actually around the data security because you can see this title here. All the key phrases, the dynamic data masking or data encryption, that's all around the data security, especially for your databases. I'm Trista Pan, the CVES co-founder and the CTO. Today we will actually talk about the data security, all of the good technologies to help us to deal with the data security. So today's content will speak of the data content. We will go through the following items. The first one, I will give a little introduction about the data life cycle management, and then it's like the background why we'll consider about the data security, and if there are many popular technologies to help us to deal with the data security, and then we will dive into such good technologies and use them to make our solutions to do such the stuff. And if we have time, I will introduce the hands-on practice or the demo show to from the hands-on, the site up practice to learn more about today's solution. But if you have no enough time, you can just refer to these slides and to do it by yourself. I will give more introduction about the technologies, about the solutions, about the architectures, and how to use the open source project to help us do such stuff. So that's something about myself. I'm the CVES co-founder and CTO, and because I really love the open source and the coding part, so I spend a lot of time in Apache Software Foundation to give some the tips to the open source incubator projects to help them to run their open source project. Is about especially around the database, because my professional area, it's about the distributed database system and cloud. So if you're interested in today's topic or later on's topic of futures, for example, the open source post or the open source business post or the databases posts, you can just give a look at my LinkedIn and GitHub or Twitter. So let's get started with the first part, the data security. It's a big topic these days, because when you Google and you found there in this world, and there are many places that are happening such events or the bad news that with our company or other companies are suffered some the data breaches, or we need to do the law or policy compliance, or we need to protect our data, all this stuff. So no matter which issues you want to solve, you will consider the data security. The next part, we will consider that what's the popular or common technologies can help us to do the the security or data protection. So we need to first know that the whole life cycle of the data management, because your technologies or good common techniques need to applied for the different phase of the whole data life cycle. So when we speak of the data life cycle management, there are some important phases here. The first one, we need to generate it or connect data from the different places or different data sources. The second one, we need to store all the data, we need to manage them. And the next one, we need to share to different departments to allow them to use all of the data to create the value for our industry, for our companies. And then the last phase for the management is that we found that some data is unnecessary for the production environment. So we need to archive them or delete them. During the whole management or the whole life cycle, we found that if we want to do the data security or protection stuff, we need to applying different policies or strategies to different phases. For example, at the first stage, when we want to get generated or collect data from different places or data sources, we need to manage our data source, right? We need to allow to the trusted data source, trusted data come to our system. And so we have some the policies or strategies, or have some the inspector or detector tools to help us manage the data sources or the data, the generation process or connection process. That's just the policy. I believe there are many such tools, or business tool or open source tool can help us do that part. But at least I want to know that if you want to do the data life management, especially about protect your data, you need to put some attention to that part. The second one about the store your data or manage data. The data encryption, it's a necessary one, and it's the common one, it's the popular one. When we speak of the data encryption, you need to consider the precise of the data, because you need to first move your data or transit your data from one place to another and manage it. So the data encryption will happen in transit and at rest. So data encryption is the key technology. So what's the data encryption? Data encryption actually is just like the name hints. It's just in order to protect your data, we need to use some the data encryption algorithm or mechanism and the encryption key to help us to convert our plain text or data into the ciphertext. So therefore, if someone wants to visit the data, want to gather plain text, they have to use some of the encryption algorithm or encryption key to help them to know what's the exact data of the such encrypted data. That's the process called decryption, right? But if you have no the correct key, or you are not allowed to gather data, for example, when we suffer from the cipher issues or the attacks, then even though you gather data from your database, because you have no the encryption algorithm or encryption key, then you can just get the ciphertext. You don't know what's the meaning of each column or each row. Yeah, so that's the data encryption. There are some not the best, the popular encryption algorithm, for them the AES or the DS or the RSA. For our users or for you to want to use such a technologies, the users, you can just use them because they are so mature and they're popular. Yes, but I know that if you can just create your own encryption algorithm, it's fine, it's okay. It's just a bit your scenarios. The next one, it's about the data masking. The data masking, it's want to solve the issue about the data usage and sharing, because we need to first share our data, allow people to visit our data, and allow people to use it. So sometimes, for example, we need to use some the production or online data for the analytics or for the testing or for the training. Then we cannot just allow our private data or message to be used in the testing environment, right? So therefore, we need to do the data masking to scrap your data and to create an in-source static data to allow others to use such the data to create the value, to do the test, to do the analytics, all the stuff. There is the image here. It clearly tell us, for example, this column SSN. Maybe before it just like here 1, 2, 3 of the plain text you can know its meaning, but later on we will scrabble the data and to use some of the symbols to replace them to become another type of the data. But actually they share the basic structures of the data. Therefore people can leverage such the part of the image of such type of the data, right? So that's the data masking. They are so common when we speak of the data security. Oh, by the way, about the data encryption in transit, actually there also have some mature technologies for us to consider. For example, the SSL, secure sockets layer. It's a protocol. For example, most of the data source or databases, they implement such the layer or such the interface. So you can just do the configuration to allow such your system or other databases to encrypt your data in transition, right? So therefore, if some of the people, get our data from the transition, they don't know because we use the SSL or TLS. TLS is advanced SSL to protect your data when transit all of them. Yeah. And about the archive and destroy, first we need to consider that such data is necessary or not, and then we can use this time to live to mechanism to allow our system to automatically to archive or expire our table rows. Yeah, because we cannot just create data, we need also to delete our data, right? So that's all the popular technologies to do the data lifecycle management, especially around the data security. But today we will just use two important or popular ways to finish the data, to protect our data. The first is data encryption in transit and at rest. And second one, we will use the dynamic data masking. This features function to help us to protect our data. But don't worry, because later on I will introduce some of the open source project. You can just use it to do such the good features. But here I had to introduce the deployment architecture. Because even though we want to do the data encryption or data masking, there are so many tools or projects can help us to do such features. They have their own pros and cons, so I want to give some introduction around them. Therefore, even though today you don't want to use the open source project, I recommend you can just consider other ways, but at least you will know the basic pros and cons of each solutions. The first one, you can just do the data encryption at the application level. That means you have the small cases and you don't want to do do a lot of work around this data security area. Then you can just let your programmers or developers, based on your current cases, to do some of the code changes or developing. For example, just using the AES or other the encryption algorithm to finish it. It's so simple, right? That means you at the application level to do the data encryption. The second one, it's around the proxy level to do the encryption, because some the data proxy and the firewall or gateway, they can help you to do the data encryption or data masking. And today I will introduce such solution because first it can help you because you don't do the code changes at your application level, especially for a lot of you have 1,000 for microservice service, right? You cannot encrypt each of the microservices one by one. That's a terrible workload. So data encryption at proxy level can help you do not do all of the tedious work. And the next one about the database encryption, because such the databases, they have the basic encryption capabilities. But that's just up to the database, because some database support that, some not, and some databases have a good support, some not. So you need to do some research about your databases. And some of the databases, they can just encrypt or decrypt your data in a whole. The whole data needed to be decrypted or encrypted automatically. So it's not so flexible. The same case will happen or more serious at the file or disk level description, because your file or your disk, they don't know the meaning of each query or each column, each table, or each row. So they just regard them at the whole data, or the same, right? The same. So they just decrypt or encrypt the whole data, even though you just want, for example, in some of the cases, you just want the user privacy information are automatically decrypted and encrypted. You don't want to search the other data or do the same stuff, because that will make the performance become lower, right? Because you need to do the encryption computing work. But for some of the database or for your files, for your disk, they don't know which data it's the user data or private data. They just decrypt all the stuff together one time, right? So that make the performance become lower. They need to do more extra work around all the stuff. So that's a lot of different solutions to reach the goal, the data encryption or dynamic data masking. So you can just pick up one of them, but today I will introduce the proxy level encryption, because like I introduced the first one that there's no code changes, the second one because some of the proxies, they know they can allow your user to do the customized encryption strategy or policies. So you can just partly do the data encryption for your scenarios, right? And in order to finish that one, we need to use this open source project. That's the shardingsphere. It's the distributed SQL engine to do the data sharding, data scaling, and the data encryption. So data encryption is just one of the key features of this project. It also can help you do the data sharding or the data scaling. But today, we'll just focus on the data encryption, this feature, how to use this project to help us automatically do the data encryption and dynamic data masking. Actually, this project has been open sourced for more than 6 years, so it has a big community. You can see here, already released for more than 50 times and have more than 1,500 contributors. And it has a lot of documents and user cases for you to learn more. So you don't worry about that. It's branch new, so you worry about to use it in your production, because you can see here it's really a mature project. It's an Apache top level project. Yes. So the next part about this project actually provides 2 clients for you to choose. The first one, it's for the Java application, because this shardingsphere JDBC client, it's lightweight Java framework. So you can just use the Maven to use the shardingsphere JDBC to do the data encryption and data masking. Another client of this project is the shardingsphere proxy. Like I said before, it's database proxy. So the database proxy, it will works or act as the database server. It will pretend itself as the PostgreSQL server or MySQL server. So let your application just use the traditional, the approach to visit your visit shardingsphere proxy as if you are visit a PostgreSQL server or MySQL server. Right, and this proxy can understand the meaning of your query and can help you automatically do the data encryption and dynamic data masking. So you can see here this proxy. It actually, like I said before, because it deployed between your application and your databases. So and it understands, it can pass your SQL, so it can help you do the data sharding, data encryption, data masking, rewrite splitting, and distribute transaction, all of the good features when you use the database. But today we will just use the two important features of this project, that is data masking and data encryption. We'll use the shardingsphere proxy to do the demo show. But if your application is developed by Java, you can consider shardingsphere JDBC because it's just so lightweight. You can just use it. Yes. So for the proxy part, this project also provides some Helm charts or operators can help you by one click to deploy the shardingsphere proxy, and then it's so simple. Even though your application now it's living in the Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, so basically how to use it to do the data encryption and the data masking. You can just first deploy this shardingsphere proxy, and each of your querying will first visit shardingsphere proxy, and it will pass your SQL, know what your meaning, get your data, and to decrypt or encrypt your data automatically and send the encrypted data into your database. So even though some of the people do the cipher attacks to your database, it gets your data. All the data are already encrypted, right? And so here you can see, for example, that's your application. It's your PostgreSQL instance. That's you need first to deploy a shardingsphere proxy, and you create a table. The table will contain all of your user information, has a user ID, username, user telephone, a user address, right? So here, we will use user telephone to do the data masking. That means you tell the shardingsphere proxy, hey, if you found that I want to insert a row that into a user this table, please help me to do the data masking on user telephone. Therefore, when you get the data from your database and from your application interface, you found the user telephone, it's already data masked, right? And here, the same here, we can let the user address is automatically encrypted into your databases. And when your application want to get the plain text of the user address, then the shardingsphere proxy will first get the cipher text from your database and automatically to decrypt that's the user address row and make it become the plain text and return the plain text to your application. Therefore, for your application, everything is transparent, but you have found your other data in your database are already encrypted. So in order to tell shardingsphere to do such actions, because it's a shardingsphere, right? It's not the single common or standard PostgreSQL databases. Therefore, we need to use another SQL. That means the distributed SQL. The distributed SQL, it's the SQL dialect of shardingsphere. So you use this SQL language to tell shardingsphere to do the data encryption, to do the data masking, to do the data sharding. It's very, easy for us to use it because you can see here this case. It's similar to your standard SQL. For example, if you want to create a regular, a normal table, you can run the create a table, right? But if you want to tell the PostgreSQL or shardingsphere that please help me do the data masking or data encryption, then you could just create an encrypted table. Here you can see we want the user ID, use the AES encryption algorithm to do the data encryption, right? So it's just another distributed language to communicate with shardingsphere proxy to help us do such advanced feature. So here, with this demo show will actually teach us how finish all of the work. And I have no time to give the more introduction, but you can refer to do it by yourself. You can see here, for example, we can create the mask rule for this user table, and we can create the encrypted rule for this table. Therefore, when you get the data through shardingsphere proxy, you can have the following information. Your address is automatically decrypted and encrypted. But here, because you get data from the proxy, so proxy already decrypt all the data from your databases. So you can see all the plain text through your command, right? And here, because we use data masking for user telephone this column, so from your application view, you will see all the part of the user telephone is data masked, right? But if you visit your PostgreSQL database, you can see here everything about the user addresses. It's all the ciphertext here, right? And everything about the user telephone, that's all the plain text. It's original content. There is no data masking in your PostgreSQL database. So that's the demo show. All right, that's all about today's talk. If you have any questions, you can just Twitter me or at my LinkedIn to talk with me. I hope it's really helpful for you. And see you next time.